Are you having that icky feeling of feeling stuck? Is that you? Does this call out to you where it's the same thing every day and you can't tell when a week ends and begins and you're just in the grind of doing things for your children, for your husband, for your career? Nothing really is changing. It's the same every day. This is something to think about because it's probably time for you to break free of that, to begin anew with a different purpose and vision potentially, and just start fresh. I just wanted to kind of challenge the idea of how to reinvent yourself as a working mom specifically. Welcome to The Empowered Woman with Alicia. Today we're going to talk about reinventing yourself, that topic. And whether you're a working mom or not, I am a working mom, so I'm saying it from a perspective as a working mother of 3. What that looks like, especially if you feel like you're stuck in a survival mode, meaning you're just trying to stay alive. You're trying to keep your kids alive. You're trying to keep your husband alive or your partner alive, et cetera, your animals alive in your house. And you're thinking, God, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to life. I know I've kind of felt that way so many times at all different points and seasons when my children were young, all the way up to now when they're teenagers. I have teenagers, young adults, meaning over 18, and I also have still a grade schooler at 7. So kind of have the full spectrum of being a parent right now. Some of the main points I really want you to think about is there are specific signs of needing reinvention. And something I want you to think about, because we as humans do evolve, whether we want to admit or not. There's constant change and evolving. Gosh, look at AI right now. It's like this huge revolution, right, of change and productivity and getting better, faster, easier. And I think what happens is people fear what they don't know. And so sometimes it's easier just to stay stuck in the same versus challenging yourself to reinvent and have a new purpose and vision because you're scared and fearful of the unknown. So if that's you, kind of perk up and think about that. So signs you may need to have a reinvention would be you're constantly burnt out. Maybe you're getting into fights with your spouse. Maybe you just feel like unworthy at work, at home, just not feeling happy, content, fulfilled. Even when everything looks good on paper, or you have the car, the house, the things, the vacations, the life, the job, the career, the accolades, the relationship, and you're like, this doesn't make sense. I should be happy, and you're just not. That's something to think about, right? And then also resentment of the lack of joy. Like if you can't feel the joyfulness, even when you're like, I am grateful, like you're forcing yourself to do that and you're not feeling it, that's a signal to you and your body and your soul that something probably needs to change. And so that has to begin with you and the desire to make the change. So why reinvention is necessary, it's so important to bring this up, is we are not absolute concrete people, meaning like human beings change, constantly evolve. Like we have a shedding and a beginning of new. Seasons are within human beings as well as where you live in the environment. Some places don't have seasons, get me wrong, but there is that concept of seasons in life, seasons in nature, seasons in business. Everything has seasons if you really think about it, right? And so you have to think about what season are you in, and maybe you haven't reinvented, maybe you haven't refreshed your life in the last 10, 20 years, and maybe it's time to get a reboot or a renovation of your life, an update. We renovate our homes, we get new cars, I think some people get new phones every time there's an update, but you may not even think about reinventing your life or yourself or your purpose and what it is that you want. Do you even give yourself time to think about what you want in life and what your journey is and why you're here? I think we are all here for a specific reason, and sometimes it just takes a little bit to figure out what that is. Energetic shifts would be a big thing too. I just got back from Healer's Mastery, which is like the basic level of 4 classes with pranic healing, and my mind is blown, and I'm so excited to continue my studies and practice and working on people and getting that certification. But it has really opened my eyes to implementing in that with my coaching clients in real estate business coaching, and also just in life and life coaching and working on people and energy. One of the biggest things is understanding how do you let go of those old cords, meaning when people kind of like plug into you, it's cords where you're like, have your chakras. And for those of you that don't know what a chakra is, it's the things that spin. Most people understand or have a basic understanding of a chakra, meaning there's energy centers in our body, and we have 11 of them that they speak about in pranic healing. And specifically, there are people that like to cord into them. They do it unknowingly. A lot of times it'll happen. You can notice it when you go to a place or when you're with a bunch of people and you leave and you're exhausted. Or sometimes you get energy, right? Some people cord and give you energy as well. But it's really important to understand how to cut those cords and remove them from you daily, probably weekly, or even just have an understanding of what gives you energy and what drains your energy. And then cleansing that aura or that energy field around you so that you can walk into a place and bring good energy everywhere you go and be like reset every day. And the biggest thing is understanding how do you reintroduce yourself to you, right? Because sometimes I think we are scared of what our future self is because the past self or the current self is comfortable because we know it. Again, this goes back to the concept of fear. When you don't know something, sometimes you kind of reject it because it's just easier to reject something that you don't understand or know versus digging and being curious. There's always that saying that if you can remain curious through your whole life, you can have a pretty amazing life because you don't come from a place of ignorance or judgment or being scareful. You're just curious. You want to learn. And that's how children are. And that's why they grow and they're sponges. And if you can replicate that in your life and everything you do and want to learn and grow and be curious and be like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why. You may see huge shifts and growth in yourself if you give yourself, especially as women, we need to do that. We are the example for our babies, right? We are the example for our children, for our daughters, our sons. So it's really important that you do things for yourself because your kids are watching you in a good way. They're not watching you to fail. They're watching you to say, look at mom, look at what she was able to do and overcome. And so if you're going to introduce yourself to you, one of the biggest things I would suggest is to journal. I love to do gratitude journals in the morning, but what I found recently has been really helpful is just doing a free-flowing journal of just thoughts, because there's a lot of thoughts that go in our head as women kind of throughout the day. Even if you just do a voice note, just do voice notes to yourself and say, today I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling tight in my chest, or I have worry about, ABC, or I feel like I'm not enough, or I won't have time for the things I want to do, or how dare I want to go do something for myself, or will there be enough? And I know it's scary to project that out loud because you don't want to project scarcity, but I think it is important to sort through those thoughts and dump it on paper or on voice notes and kind of upload it to paper so it gets out of your head and your body and your soul so you can kind of sort through things. It's kind of like that spitball, throwing it out there and letting it, be and ruminate before making decisions on what you want in life. And sometimes the answer is in the journal. Another great option besides journaling would be meditation. And that's really good after journaling because when you meditate, you kind of take away your conscious mind of the thinking, what's this, what's that, and like the schedules and all the things to a deeper place within your soul of what is it that you really want. And if you can start to come from a place of meditating, it allows those kind of thoughts to come to you. Like, what do you see yourself doing? And you can visualize, like, do you want to live at the beach? Do you want to have a different career? What would that look like? What would that entail? And who is that new version of you if you want to do this ABC role? Like, it's not what you do now. Like, if you really want to run that marathon, you kind of need to get up and run, which means you probably need to go to bed early, which means you probably need to not be scrolling on the phone or watching TV. So kind of like, I think leads you to the actions you need to take, and then you can journal what you meditated about. So those are some great ways to kind of reinvent yourself and figure out, possibly open you up a little bit, because it's different for each person and everybody has a different process. But I would say if you're stuck, not knowing where to start, it's a great place to start. So definitely do that. And then also look at picking at one thing in alignment to doing it as her, the new version of you, right? The new version of who you are reinventing yourself. You could even name it. Like, I went on ChatGPT and said, if I became this future version of me, what would that name be? And kind of give it like a nickname, kind of like there's Superman and Clark Kent. And it helps you kind of go into that role and just pick one thing that person needs to do to show up as that person. So maybe it's just dressing differently. Maybe it's taking care of yourself differently. Maybe it's getting your manicure done. I got mine done today and I made it a priority. In the past, there were many times that I didn't, and I would feel resentful for that I didn't make time for myself. Now I always make time for that. I make time for my hair. I make time for things that I know are part of my grooming schedule, part of taking care of me, and part of how it makes me feel good confidence-wise and showing up. And those are all very important things. And it's not about like vanity in the sense of like, oh, I have to have it like that to be this way. It's that it's part of my, I guess, uniform of who this version of me is what I would say. In closing, reinvention is not a breakdown. I think that's really hard because I think some people are like, oh, I had a breakdown, an emotional breakdown, or I'm so stressed out. I think it's really a breakthrough to your next version. And sometimes when you're really frustrated and you're trying to figure things out, that means you're really close to that breakthrough. I remember that at Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins. Anytime anybody would say they're frustrated, you'd be like, well, that means we're having a breakthrough. And when you'd say I'm having a breakthrough, everyone would clap and, celebrate it, because I think we are all evolving. We're all human beings evolving and going forward in life. And gosh, look at tech evolves every day, every year. We're seeing it with AI faster than ever. Cars evolve. Everything we have evolves, right? Homes, technology. Why shouldn't we evolve? Shouldn't we be better versions of ourselves? Us, you versus you, not you comparing yourself to someone else or because that person's doing it, you need to do it, but really figuring out what is it that you want and how do you want to show up as a reinvented version of you. So I challenge you if you're curious to go further, shoot me a DM. I'd love to chat with you and discussing maybe you just need a little bit of accountability to get that mode figured out of like, who is this next version of you? Until next time, stay empowered and talk to you soon.